Grease stained his hands, his shirt clung to his back from hours under the sun, and the broken fan barely moved the hot air inside the cramped garage. Rafik tightened the last bolt under the car's hood and stood up slowly, stretching his sore back. Across the room, his son Amr sat silently on a worn-out toolbox, hunched over a notebook with a pencil too short to grip properly. The boy's stomach growled, but he didn't complain. He never did. The flickering tube light overhead buzzed like an annoying reminder of everything they lacked: comfort, security, peace. Rafik wiped his forehead with a rag and glanced at a crumpled paper pinned on the wooden wall. Unpaid bills, school fees, rent notices. Every day felt like a race just to survive. Just then, the clang of a hammer outside drew his attention. He stepped out and saw a man nailing a colorful poster onto the electric pole at the street corner. It fluttered in the breeze. Grand City RACE winner takes 500,000. Rafik walked over, stared at it, his heart pounding in his chest. His eyes moved to the small print. Open category. Any vehicle allowed. He looked back at the garage, at the dusty shell of his old 1986 Corolla, abandoned, broken, forgotten. A memory hit him hard. That same car had once taken him and his late wife to the hospital the day Amr was born. Someone across the street laughed. What? Thinking of racing with that piece of scrap? Rafik didn't answer. He just stared at the poster a little longer. Amr peeked out from the garage and asked, What's going on? Rafik turned to him, eyes steady. We're going to fix that car, Beta. We're going to win that. Race *. Nights in the garage turned colder, quieter, but Rafik's determination burned hotter than ever. The world outside had given up on him, but inside this dim little workshop, he was rebuilding more than just a car. He was trying to piece together a future. The Corolla stood in the center like an old warrior scarred from too many battles. Its paint was faded, tires bald, and engine rusted, but its heart still beat faintly. Rafik worked in silence. His hands covered in oil, his nails blackened. A small flashlight clamped between his teeth when the electricity cut out again. Amr sat nearby, rubbing his sleepy eyes, carefully handing him tools from a dented red box. Wrench, Rafik would mumble, and the boy passed it with sleepy accuracy. This was their nightly rhythm now. Rafik scavenged parts from junkyards, an old radiator here, a salvaged piston there. People mocked him openly. That car won't even roll to the start line, sneered Billal, the town's top racer. But Rafik ignored the noise. He tightened, welded, soldered. He talked to the car like it was alive. Come on, old friend, just one more miracle. Then, one night, after days of coaxing and praying, he twisted the ignition with trembling hands. Silence! A cough! Then a deep rattling roar that filled the garage. The engine sprang to life. It wasn't smooth. It growled and sputtered like an old lion, but it ran. Amr's eyes lit up. It's alive, Abu! Rafik smiled for the first time in weeks. The sound drew in curious neighbors. They stood outside whispering, staring in disbelief. Even Shabazz, the flashy racer who always mocked Rafik, appeared and laughed. That thing belongs in a museum, not a race. Rafik looked him in the eye, wiped his hands, and simply said, Let's see how long your pride lasts when heart enters the track. Race day dawned under a sharp morning sun, casting long shadows across the bustling track. The air buzzed. With energy engines revving, tires screeching, announcers shouting through loudspeakers, spectators filled the stands, waving flags and placing bets. Among the lineup of gleaming machines, sleek, modern, and custom-built, stood a dusty old Corolla, dull gray paint chipped and scarred. People laughed, just seeing it. Whose junkyard refugee is that? Someone chuckled. Rafik stepped out of the driver's side in his faded overalls, head high. No sponsors on his car? No pit crew in matching uniforms, just him and Amr, holding a handmade cardboard sign that read, Go Abu. Crayon drawings of a car and a smiling face made it even more out of place. But that smile, that was everything. To Rafik, the official approached, looking skeptically at the vehicle. You sure this thing is safe to race? It's safe enough to win, Rafik replied calmly, handing over the paperwork. The cars lined up at the start. Rafik's Corolla looked like a mule among thoroughbreds. Engines around him roared like lions. His growled like an old dog, but he knew every sound, every tremble of it. The flag dropped. With a screech, the race began. The others surged forward with raw power, leaving Rafik behind in a cloud of smoke. Laughter erupted from the crowd. He's already out, they said asterisk. But Rafik didn't flinch. He kept his eyes on the road, his foot steady on the pedal, while others tore through the early laps, drifting dangerously and burning rubber. He focused on control-tight turns, smooth handling, no wasted moves. One car spun out on a corner. Another lost control from overheating. Still, Rafik kept going slow, consistent, unshaken. Asterisk on the third lap, the commentators finally noticed. Wait, is that the old Corolla still holding on? Asterisk, the crowd turned. Emmer stood now, waving his sign wildly. And on the track a quiet storm was building, one driven not by horsepower, but pure will. Asterisk, the sun dipped lower as the final laps approached, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples. The race had turned into a battlefield. Screaming tires, cracked bumpers, and smoke from blown engines marked the chaos. Only 3 cars remained in the lead pack now: Shabazz in his turbocharged beast, a rich kid in a sponsored Mustang, and trailing just behind, incredibly, was Rafik in his patched-up Corolla. No one laughed anymore. Asterisk, Rafik's hands were sore, fingers trembling from hours of gripping the wheel. His shoulder ached from a jolt earlier when someone sideswiped him. The Corolla's engine knocked rhythmically, now metal on metal, a warning sign. But he didn't ease off. This wasn't about pride. It was about putting food on the table. Winning meant school fees, medicine, a real future for Emmer. Asterisk, Shabazz glanced in his rearview mirror and sneered. Still chasing, old man? He floored it, trying to shake him. But Rafik stayed focused. He knew this track. He had worked in its pit garages for years, fixing racers' cars, learning its curves with every tire change and oil spill. Asterisk, then, it happened. On the sharpest curve, Shabazz braked late and tried to cut inside. Rafik anticipated it. He took the corner clean and tight, letting Shabazz clip his back bumper with a brutal shove. The Corolla jolted, almost spinning. Gasps erupted from the crowd, but Rafik countersteered perfectly, saving it by inches. The commentators screamed, "How did he recover that? That's world-class control!" Asterisk Amor stood, hands clenched, eyes wide. "Come on, Abu," he shouted over the roar. Asterisk, the Mustang lost control on the same curve and slammed into the barrier. Now it was just Shabazz and Rafik. Asterisk, smoke puffed from Rafik's hood, but he kept pushing. The final lap, one last straightaway. Shabazz tried to block him weaving across the track, but Rafik didn't flinch. He found a gap tiny, dangerous, stupid to attempt, but he went for it. The crowd held its breath. The Corolla surged forward, engine screaming like it was crying in pain, and slipped through. Asterisk, the crowd was on their feet, eyes glued to the final stretch. Dust swirled in the air, and all that could be heard was the deafening roar of 2 engines, the monstrous growl of Shabazz's car, and the tortured scream of Rafik's dying Corolla. Every second stretched like an eternity. Emmer stood on the edge of the barrier, hands clutched to his chest, whispering under his breath, "Please, Abu, just a little more." Asterisk, Rafik felt the steering wheel shake violently. His dashboard lit up with warning lights overheating, oil pressure low, engine misfiring, but he didn't back down. He tightened his grip, heart pounding harder than his engine. This wasn't just a race anymore. This was the fight of a father, of a man who'd been laughed at his whole life, who had nothing except purpose. Asterisk, Shabazz tried one last dirty move. He swerved to block the lane, but misjudged the distance. His car clipped the edge of the divider and bounced, briefly losing control. That split second was all Rafik needed. Asterisk, the Corolla surged ahead, spitting smoke and sparks as it passed the grandstand. The checkered flag waved. Silence fell for just a moment as no one could believe what they saw. Asterisk, then eruption. The crowd roared like thunder. People jumped from their seats. Even the announcers were shouting over each other. "Rafik, it's Rafik, the mechanic just won it." Asterisk, he coasted to a stop, barely steam billowing from under the hood. He stepped out slowly, legs trembling, face streaked with sweat and grime. And before the media, the cameras, or even the officials could reach him, Emmer broke past the barrier and ran straight into his arms. Asterisk, they collapsed together on the ground, father and son both crying not from sadness, but the kind of victory that only comes from suffering. Asterisk, a reporter finally pushed through, breathless. "Sir, how did you pull that off? That car wasn't even supposed to last a lap." Asterisk Rafik looked down at his son, kissed his forehead, and then turned to the mic. His voice was calm, steady. Asterisk, when the world gives you nothing, you race with your heart and heart doesn't break. Asterisk, a hush followed. Then a sponsor watching and all stepped forward. We want to sign you. Full team, full support. What do you say?